December 10, 2003, marked a day of joyous anticipation in the quaint, prosperous town of Sugar Land, Texas. The Whitaker family, well known and respected in their community, prepared for an evening of celebration. It was to be a memorable occasion, honoring the eldest son, Bart Whitaker, who had ostensibly completed his academic journey at Sam Houston State University. The family home, usually a haven of warmth and laughter, was abuzz with excitement. Kent, the father, a steadfast figure at the helm of the family-owned construction business, exchanged playful banter with his sons. Patricia, the mother, her face alight with pride, reminisced about Bart and Kevin's childhood as she adjusted her elegant dress. Kevin, the younger son, shared his brother's achievement with a mix of admiration and sibling jest. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the suburbs of Sugar Land, the Whitaker family car glided through the streets. They were headed to Pappadeaux, a popular local restaurant known for its lively ambience and exquisite cuisine. There, amidst the clinking of glasses and the symphony of celebratory voices, the Whitakers gathered around a table adorned with white linen and sparkling silverware, ready to toast Bart's academic success. Laughter and stories flowed freely, painting the air with a sense of fulfillment and familial love. Kent and Patricia had exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement of their journey as parents, now seemingly culminating in the success of their eldest son. Kevin, ever the spirited soul, regaled the table with anecdotes from campus life, drawing hearty laughs from Bart. But beneath the surface of this picture-perfect celebration, a sinister plot was coiling like a viper ready to strike. Unknown to the family, and unbeknownst even to the patrons around them, the evening was set to take a turn into an abyss of betrayal and horror. The joyous occasion was but a facade, masking a dark plan that had been meticulously crafted. A plan that, before the night was over, would shatter the Whitaker family forever. As the evening wore on, the family lingered in the afterglow of their celebration, reluctant to let the night end. Eventually, they rose, offering smiles and thanks to the staff, oblivious to the impending doom that awaited them at home. The drive back was filled with light-hearted conversation, a stark contrast to the darkness that was about to engulf their lives. This was a night that the Whitakers and the town of Sugar Land would never forget. A night where the facade of happiness and normalcy would be brutally peeled away, revealing a chilling heart of darkness beneath. The Whitaker family returned home, hearts light from the evening celebration. Sugar Land's quiet streets stood in stark contrast to the darkness waiting inside their home. Unseen, Chris Brashear, cloaked in black and masked, was the harbinger of Bart's betrayal. Bart, the architect of the plot, fabricated an excuse to stay behind as his family entered. Inside, Kevin, the younger brother, was the first to cross the threshold. Unaware of the lurking danger, his innocent smile was abruptly extinguished by a gunshot. Kevin collapsed, his future brutally cut short. Behind him, Patricia, their mother, stepped in only to be met with the same ruthless fate, another shot, and she too fell, her maternal love and dreams unfulfilled. Kent, witnessing this horror, was struck but miraculously survived, his life forever marred by this night. Bart then entered, staging a struggle with Brashear to mask his guilt. He emerged with a self-inflicted wound, playing a duplicitous role of victim and perpetrator. As Brashear fled, the home once filled with joy was now a scene of unimaginable betrayal. The Whitaker family lay fractured, a testament to a night that transformed a celebration into a heart-wrenching tragedy. In the aftermath of the gunfire, the Whitaker home became a tableau of tragedy. Kent, wounded and bewildered, struggled to comprehend the chaos that had erupted around him. His wife and son lay motionless, their lives cruelly snatched away in their own home. Amidst this devastation, Bart, with a wound to his arm, feigned the shock and horror expected of an innocent victim. The night air was pierced by the wail of sirens as emergency responders rushed to the scene. Neighbors, drawn by the commotion, watched in disbelief as the facade of the Whitaker household was shattered, revealing a scene of horror within. Paramedics attended to the wounded, their efforts a desperate race against time. Kevin and Patricia were beyond saving, their lives cruelly ended by the bullets that struck them. Kent, despite his injury, was a portrait of resilience. He clung to life, his will to survive fueled by a mixture of adrenaline and a deep-seated need for answers. As he was rushed to the hospital, his mind grappled with the unfathomable reality of losing his wife and son in such a brutal manner. Bart, meanwhile, played his part with a deceptive calmness. To the first responders and the gathering crowd, he appeared as a victim, a son who had survived an attempt on his family. But beneath this veneer of innocence lay the truth of his guilt, a truth that would soon begin to unravel. The Sugar Land police, experienced in dealing with suburban tranquility, found themselves thrust into an investigation that was as complex as it was unusual. The scene before them was one of premeditated violence, a stark deviation from the community's norm. As they began to piece together the events of the night, a tapestry of deceit and malice started to emerge. Unknown to Bart, his carefully constructed narrative was about to face the scrutiny of law enforcement. The investigation would peel back the layers of his lies, exposing the depths of his betrayal. In the dark shadow of the Whitaker home, the truth waited to be uncovered, a truth that would shock the community to its core. As the dawn broke over Sugar Land, it shed light on the grim reality of the Whitaker household. The community, usually untouched by such brutality, woke to the news of the tragedy that had befallen one of its own families. The stark contrast between the peaceful town and the violent incident within the Whitaker home left neighbors and friends in a state of shock and disbelief. Investigators swarmed the crime scene, their expertise now focused on unraveling the mystery of this seemingly inexplicable act of violence. Every detail of the house, from the entryway where Kevin and Patricia fell to the spot where Kent was wounded, was meticulously examined for clues. Meanwhile, Kent, fighting for his life in the hospital, grappled with the reality of his devastating loss. The pain of his physical wounds was dwarfed by the agony of losing his wife and son in such a horrific manner. His survival became a beacon of hope in the midst of despair, a critical witness to the night's events. Bart, under the guise of a grieving son, found himself at the center of the investigation. The police, methodical in their approach, began to piece together the events leading up to the shooting. Initial sympathy towards Bart gradually gave way to suspicion as inconsistencies in his story emerged. The mask of the victim he wore so carefully began to slip, revealing glimpses of a more sinister role. The community's initial outpouring of support and empathy soon turned into whispers of doubt and suspicion. Friends and neighbors struggled to reconcile the image of the Whitaker family they knew with the gruesome scene that had unfolded in their home. By mid-2004, the investigation had turned Bart Whitaker, once seen as a victim, into the prime suspect in his family's tragedy. With evidence mounting against him, Bart chose flight over facing the consequences. He slipped away from Sugar Land, leaving behind a trail of betrayal and mystery. Adopting the alias Rudy Rios, Bart crossed into Mexico, disappearing into a new life. In Cerralvo, he found a job in a furniture shop, crafting a false identity complete with fabricated tales of a past that concealed his true nature. Meanwhile, in Sugar Land, the community grappled with the revelation of Bart's escape. The shock of his betrayal resonated deeply, turning their grief into a quest for justice. In September 2005, a capital murder warrant brought the manhunt to a climax. An acquaintance, motivated by reward money, tipped off the authorities about Bart's location. Coordinated efforts between Mexican and U.S. law enforcement led to Bart's capture. Arrested without incident, the fugitive's journey came to an end. Bart's apprehension marked a pivotal turn in the Whitaker family case, closing the chapter on his evasion and setting the stage for the impending legal battle. The truth, long obscured by lies, was now poised to be revealed. Following Bart Whitaker's arrest, the investigation into the Whitaker family tragedy intensified. It soon became clear that Bart's life was a web of deception. The most startling revelation was that Bart had never graduated from college, a fact he had hidden from his family, marking the beginning of his unraveling. Detectives uncovered the depth of Bart's planning for the crime. He had enlisted Chris Brashear to carry out the shootings and Stephen Champagne as the getaway driver, revealing a chilling level of premeditation and manipulation. The testimonies of Brashear and Champagne provided insight into the plot, uncovering a sinister plan driven by promises of financial gain. This evidence shattered any belief that the murders were a random act of violence. They were, in fact, a calculated assassination orchestrated by Bart against his own family. The community of Sugarland, still in shock, struggled to reconcile the Bart they knew with the reality of his actions. Further investigation revealed Bart's history of plotting against his family, showing a pattern of disturbing behavior that had gone unnoticed. The capture of Bart Whitaker marked a turning point in the Whitaker family case. As he was extradited back to the United States, the residents of Sugarland watched with a mix of relief and disbelief. The man who had once been part of their community was now a notorious figure, his name synonymous with betrayal and cruelty. In September 2005, as Bart faced the reality of his situation, the gears of justice began to turn. He was charged with capital murder, a crime that carried the weight of the death penalty. The evidence against him was overwhelming, not only for the murder plot, but also for the years of deception leading up to that fateful December night. As Bart awaited trial, the Whitaker home remained a somber reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. The community's sense of security had been irrevocably shattered, their trust in the facade of suburban perfection broken. March 2007 marked the commencement of Bart Whitaker's trial, a pivotal moment in the saga that had captivated Sugarland. The courtroom, packed with members of the community, media, and law enforcement, brimmed with a palpable tension as the proceedings began. The prosecution presented a compelling narrative, meticulously detailing Bart's orchestration of the murder plot. Evidence and testimonies painted a chilling picture of his deceit and manipulation. The jury listened intently as the prosecutors unraveled the web of lies that Bart had woven, each revelation more shocking than the last. Bart's defense team countered, attempting to navigate the complexities of his actions and the circumstances that led to that tragic December night. However, the weight of evidence against him was formidable, making their task daunting. Witnesses took the stand, each adding layers to the story. The testimonies of Brashear and Champagne were particularly damning, solidifying Bart's role as the mastermind behind the plot. The courtroom was gripped by their accounts, which laid bare the depth of Bart's betrayal. Throughout the trial, the community of Sugarland remained fixated on the unfolding drama, seeking answers and justice for the unimaginable act that had shattered their tranquility. The trial was not just a legal proceeding. It was a process of healing for a community still reeling from the shock of the murders. As Bart Whitaker's trial neared its conclusion, the atmosphere in the courtroom was heavy with anticipation. The community of Sugarland, still grappling with the reality of the betrayal, awaited the jury's decision with bated breath. The closing arguments by the prosecution were powerful and concise, reiterating Bart's role as the mastermind behind the horrific plot. They painted a vivid picture of the premeditated nature of his actions, leaving an indelible mark on the jury's minds. The defense, in their final plea, sought to humanize Bart, highlighting his troubled past and the complexities of his character. However, the gravity of his crimes cast a long shadow over these attempts. When the jury retired to deliberate, a palpable silence enveloped the courtroom. The verdict, when it came, was decisive. Bart Whitaker was found guilty of capital murder. The weight of this judgment resonated not just within the confines of the courtroom, but throughout the entire community. Sentencing followed, and Bart faced the ultimate penalty, the death sentence. This judgment brought a complex mixture of relief, sadness, and reflection to those who had been touched by the tragedy. The sentencing of Bart Whitaker to death brought a somber conclusion to a saga that had deeply affected Sugarland. However, an unexpected development arose in the form of a heartfelt appeal from an unlikely source. Kent Whitaker, Bart's father, and the sole survivor of the tragic attack. Despite the unimaginable loss and betrayal he had suffered, Kent embarked on a remarkable journey of forgiveness. He publicly campaigned for clemency for his son, arguing that executing Bart would only compound his suffering. Kent's plea was a powerful testament to a father's unconditional love, resonating deeply within the community and beyond. In January 2018, Kent's efforts, coupled with a submission from Bart's legal team, led to a surprising turn of events. The Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, in a rare decision, unanimously recommended commuting Bart's death sentence to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Governor Greg Abbott, moved by Kent's plea and the unique circumstances of the case, accepted the recommendation. This decision marked the first time since 2007 that a Texas governor had commuted a death sentence. Kent's advocacy had achieved the seemingly impossible, sparing his son's life. This act of forgiveness and mercy added a final poignant layer to the Whitaker family story. It spoke volumes about the complexities of human emotions and the capacity for forgiveness, even in the face of overwhelming grief and betrayal.